shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
A really important thing about GB News, and it's brought something completely different to the landscape.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, the reality is that most British journalists are afraid.
That's not GB News.
Journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
We're here to talk about things in a way that have never been broadcast on British airways before.
Do not miss a moment on GB News.
The #1 news channel in the country.
Very good evening to you from Washington, D.C. This is GB News with the story shaping Britain and America tonight.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death.
Breaking news in America today. Another shooting by ICE officers in Minneapolis has reignited tensions. Protesters have taken to the streets and are currently clashing with federal agents. Elsewhere, Donald Trump has praised British soldiers who fought in Afghanistan. This is, of course, after he faced that furious backlash over comments he made in Davos suggesting that UK forces avoided the front line. But who do you think was behind his change of tone? Also breaking tonight, the Home Office has announced a new nationwide police force designed to tackle the most serious and complex crimes across England and Wales. I'll talk to Mark White.
Andy Burnham is doing an excellent job as Mayor of Manchester. We work very closely together.
He's a very popular mayor, but is Andy Burnham about to make his return to Parliament and threaten Sir Keir Starmer in a leadership bid, the biggest Labour story of the year so far? Also tonight here in Washington, in the next few hours, a major snowstorm is going to sweep across the United States, bringing 12 inches of snow, 12 inches, and minus 30-degree temperatures. That's right, we are staying warm here in the studio. So keep me company. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live. We have a little confusion here in America when we start talking about Fahrenheit or Celsius. Minus 30 Hillary.
Yeah, it's really freezing.
That is minus 30 Celsius.
Celsius. So I know how to do Celsius to Fahrenheit because you always double it and add 32.
Yeah.
So going the other way, you obviously minus 32 and half it.
Okay, great. So we might just get you on the your say to keep filling us in if we get our maths wrong on these temperatures. And I've got Hillary Fordich with me.
This is freezing.
And Mally Smith is with me here as well. We are all bracing here for this massive snowstorm. It is literally meant to start whilst we are on air tonight. We're on Snow Watch. We will keep you posted. Eleanor, who works with me here, she's been out and bought her snow boots today. And I won't tell you what we ladies are wearing underneath the desk under our dresses. I don't know about you, Mally, whether you've got your thermals on as well, but
yes.
What you see is glamorous at the top, not underneath. Right, get in touch this evening, gbnews.com/your say. Let's move on to the biggest story of the day here, though. We're also going to be having Layla Cunningham joining us down the line. I don't know whether Layla's there already. I've just said hello to my two panel here in DC. We've got Layla Cunningham down the line in the studio. We are going to come to you, Layla, as the evening goes on. There you are. So nice to see you. Gosh, we've got a lot to talk about. You're having a very busy time at the moment. Layla's going to be with us for the next 2 hours. Now, just before we move on, I want to bring you this. The Sun are reporting that it is King Charles who is allegedly behind President Trump's military backtrack this evening after the King's concerns over his slur on NATO troops were apparently passed to the White House. Now, the President Trump said British war heroes, he said, were amongst the greatest of all warriors. Now, that is 48 hours after he triggered massive fury, a real backlash, particularly from the UK, by saying that British soldiers stayed off the front line. So I wonder what happened there. Do you think it was King Charles who got on the phone to the White House? Presumably, Starmer's message didn't get through. What does that mean? OK, moving on to this main news this evening. Thousands of anti-ICE protesters, now that is the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets of Minneapolis this evening after another person, a man this time, was shot dead by the agents in the state. The victim has been identified only in the last couple of hours as 37-year-old Alex Jeffrey Pretty. Now, in response to the situation, the Department for Homeland Security released a social media statement claiming that the individual approached officers with a semi-automatic handgun. They added that officers attempted to disarm the suspect but were met with violent resistance.
As DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien, during this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots.
Listening on the radio, that's Greg Bovino, who is the Border Patrol commander there in Minneapolis. A little earlier, we also heard from the mayor, Jacob Frey, who lambasted the president and the White House following the shooting.
To President Trump, this is a moment to act like a leader. Put Minneapolis, put America first in this moment. Let's achieve peace. Let's end this operation, and I'm telling you, our city will come back. Safety will be restored.
The governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, also attacked the federal agents, accusing them of sowing chaos and violence.
Donald Trump, I call on you once again. Remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. And the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong.
And of course, we have also heard from President Trump on this. He posted on Truth Social. He said, "Where are the local police? Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers? The mayor and the governor called them off, ? It is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. It's not an easy thing to do, he said. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection with their pompous, dangerous and arrogant rhetoric. Capital letters, he said, let our ICE patriots do their job. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota. The Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, also voiced his support for the agents, posting, "Thank God for the patriots of ICE." He said, "We have your back 100%. You are saving the country. Shame on the leader of Minnesota and the lunatics in the street." And in the past few minutes, the Secretary of State for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, has been speaking.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene.
Secretary of State for Homeland Security, Kristi Noem there, of course. Now, let's talk to my panel about this. Let me come to you first, Hilary, as a Brit, because I think it's also worth putting this into some context for a British audience, because it's quite hard for us to understand who these ICE agents are. So just explain on a basic level what they are here to do.
What they're here to do is to enforce legal immigrants, prevent illegals. They're here to actually deport them. And what's very interesting, President Obama deported 3 million illegals. President Clinton deported about 1.5 million. So when the Democrats were doing it, you didn't see this across cities. And right now, you don't see this sort of violence. You don't see these kind of protests in states like Tennessee, Florida, where they're doing the same thing. So now back to your question, to link that all together, these ICE agents are enforcing the law. Which American really wants to raise their hands and says, I want disorder, I want no laws enforced? And I can say this as a legal immigrant, what my family went through, what we went through to be here legally. It is really important that we're either a law-abiding nation or we aren't. And also, it's estimated, Kristi Noem has said, approximately 70 to 75% of all those arrested have a criminal record. So this isn't just people that are here just illegally, they have criminal records.
Which sounds like the reason, Mali, you would step aside and let these people do their job, as the president's been calling for. What are the protesters angry about?
Well, first off, Kristi Noem lied. ICE's own data says that 70% of the folks they've arrested have no criminal record. Only 5% have a violent criminal record. That isn't some study from some sort of think tank. That's ICE's own data. Second, your question on why aren't they just stepping back and letting this happen? Well, there's a lot of Americans who are concerned about the abuses when it comes to ICE. We have had 2 U.S. citizens shot and killed in Minneapolis. We can debate, well, I'm going to say we can debate the context of the shooting, what happened, like, I get it.
Every shooting is about context.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying that this situation, in my opinion, has spiraled out of control, and I think there's some common sense reforms that I think the Trump administration, if they instituted, would help get ICE's approval rating, image back on track, which is I don't believe ICE agents should be masked. I don't think that ICE...
Don't they have to be masked because they get doxed? So
yes.
Just to explain what that is, so many pink-haired liberals are lining the streets in places like Minneapolis. I mean, I saw some footage today which was just extraordinary. It was a social media clip of a young white woman face-to-face with an ICE agent who had his mask on, and she was just saying to him, tell me where you live, I'm going to come to your house, I'm going to smash in your windows. It was so horrible and aggressive, and they don't talk back. This is one of the things that is mysterious, is the ICE agents don't say a word, and that doesn't help.
They sometimes do talk back. There is footage in Maine of a woman videotaping an ICE agent, which is completely legal to do. You are allowed to film law enforcement officials on the street, and that ICE agent says, I'm recording you now, and he said, I'm going to put your name in a database. And she said, what's the database? She said, then the ICE agent said, it's a database for domestic terrorists. Look, this situation has spiraled out of control. I believe that ICE should focus on violent criminals. I am 100% agree with that. But I feel like we can have a better immigration policy, which is focusing on violent criminals and providing undocumented immigrants who've lived here for years, who are good citizens of the community, a pathway to citizenship.
Let me bring in Layla from London, because Layla Cunningham, do you share my befuddlement at this? Because I look at this and think, well, this is surely would go down well in the UK if we had agents rounding up illegal migrants, particularly those who have committed a crime. It baffles me what is motivating anybody to stand in their way. The violence wouldn't be happening if they weren't being blocked by thousands of protesters, Layla.
Yeah, no, I agree. And your guest said that you don't see it in the red states, which shows that it is just a political opposition. I mean, the president was elected on a clear promise to restore control to America's borders and to remove people who are here illegally, not just criminals, but anyone who's here illegally. I mean, that's not extreme. That is the essence of sovereignty. Every nation has a right to decide who stays within its borders. And, you know, when politicians refuse to honour that, you know, that is I mean, that's not sovereign. So I don't agree with your guest that he should just focus on criminals. I think you cannot have a two-tier system where, like your other guest said, she had to go through massive amount of loops to be neutralised as a US citizen, and other people can come here illegally and claim citizenship that way. It sends a dangerous message that the law applies selectively.
You know what we should do to calm everything down? We should play the clips, the White House should play the clips from President Obama, President Clinton and Hillary Clinton actually saying that we should deport illegals.
So how did they do it? Why is this so? Is it because this is very...
create all this?
Well, first off, we have had a huge increase in ICE's budget. So there are more ICE agents going around the country. So there is a difference.
That's because there's more illegal immigrants. That's why. Right, the men and women of ICE are following law that's passed by Congress. They're enforcing deportation orders. And
I hear you, but when you're asking what the difference is, there's the difference that it's scaled up. So there are more ICE agents in more cities. Second, ICE used to do much more research when it came to targeting violent criminals. They did not have a policy that we were going to have target everyone. That is the Trump administration's policy right now, that we're going to target everyone.
Sorry, that's because President Trump has a different mandate. He was elected on the mandate to get rid of illegal migrants, not just illegal criminals. It was illegal migrants in the country. He won, and he won by, you know, a large amount. And for him not to go after them,
he did not win by a large amount. He didn't even get 50% of the vote. He got 49% of the vote. That's a plurality, not a majority. 47% of Americans voted for Kamala Harris. So you're saying 47% of Americans who disagree with their immigration policy should have no say?
I'm sorry, you either agree with democracy.
Americans who don't like Keir Starmer should just sit back?
Yeah, you either agree with democracy or you don't.
This is a democratic process.
Exactly. You either agree with the outcome.
I'm not saying be violent, but I'm just saying.
Do you agree with democracy?
You can protest. I do agree with democracy. I'm not the one who threw an insurrection when we lost the election. So
you see, I think that all of these women who are, because it is predominant, it's a lot of women. It was a man who was shot today. We think he was a nurse, 37-year-old nurse. Yes. But a lot of the people that are protesting, I think if you probably sat them down over a cup of coffee and said, do you think criminals who have come here illegally should be in the country? They'd probably say no. So what is it about this process which is upsetting them so much? Is it just that it's under the control of Trump and they hate him?
Well, that's one of the factors, I do think, Bev. I also think, going back to Mally's point, the difference now is that the Biden administration let in 21 million illegals, so we have so many more than we ever did previously. And then I think also, I do believe a lot of this is being funded by somebody somewhere because it's so ubiquitous, and they're doing the same things, like all the drums. No, when I was in New York City, I remember being in New York City and with the scenes that they were making outside of the hotels, the police saying, oh, we see these same people, and they're bussed around, and they're bussed from different places.
Protests you can directly tie to the public sentiment, where if you look at polling, this is the first time in history more people want to abolish ICE than support it. These protests aren't coming out of nowhere. This isn't some George Soros pipe dream. People are protesting because they're unhappy.
Well, not in Miami.
People are protesting because they're unhappy. You can look at the polling.
But unhappy with what?
Yeah, what
but so to me, like what are they unhappy with? Are they unhappy
the execution of 2 U.S. citizens they're probably unhappy with.
Well, it's not execution.
It's
walking a car in the car.
But the guy had
running it using a
the guy had a gun in his
vehicle.
loaded gun in his pocket, and he's surrounded by police officers. That's a terrible idea.
The guy has a gun. We're a country that allows concealed carry. And also, he didn't brandish his gun at the officers. That is a lie. We have the video. He was filming the officers.
Speaking of video, she actually weaponized her vehicle.
The majority of Americans do not agree with you.
Well, but the problem is that you have leaders like the mayor, like the governor, and they're telling people that legal enforcement is illegitimate. And that is causing chaos within itself. That is not leadership. They're meant to calm the situation down, and they're inflaming it. Federal law doesn't just stop existing because Governor Volt doesn't like it.
Which they didn't under Obama and Clinton.
Because this is the thing, when you say they're angry because 2 people have been shot, 2 people have been shot because people are angry. They're not angry because 2 people have been shot.
And it's not in the Republican state.
The anger was already there. This is purely political protest.
The angry, of course, yes, there were protests before, but I'm saying that is why this has escalated too. Like, this has gotten worse because of those 2 murders. Like, that is
the murder
clear.
happened.
But we're asking.
The murder happened tonight. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but the murder happened, and it's a tragic murder. But this anger, these protests have been going on way before the murders happened. It's got nothing to do with the murders. It's the fact that you have Democratic governors and leaders who are trying to undermine President Trump's mandate and presidency. They don't even call him President Trump. They're making a point of saying Donald Trump. And you cannot have that from leaders. You can't play party politics with people's safety.
OK, let's move to an ICE agent. Let's talk to Tim Miller, who is a former Secret Service and ICE agent. Tim, very good evening to you. I'm sure you're listening to our fairly heated debate here, and it is a very controversial topic, but I am at a loss as to understand why it is controversial to say we would like illegal immigrants who are in our country without permission, who have also committed some of the worst crimes imaginable, and these people are fighting for them to stay. Is that what they are objecting to, Tim?
No, absolutely not. And, I love, the left's rhetoric by your colleague here, execution and murder. Okay, when you look at the facts, when you look at what really happened, that's a blatant lie. 1 agent shot because he was having a 4,000-ton vehicle driving towards them. Another agent shot because he was on the ground being beaten by 3 men with shovels. So I like that rhetoric that kind of spins it, that ICE is in fact these lawless renegades that are out there, just doing their own thing. Let me be clear, too, because I served as a law enforcement officer for 30 years here. Agents and officers are trained right from the beginning to support and defend the Constitution. And whether the left likes it or not, the Constitution is based on laws that are put in place by elected leaders and enforced by law enforcement officers. The left hates this particular law, and they want to see it go away. And to your point, the last administration let 15 to 20 million people in. And let me say this. I've worked with the Secret Service. I've worked in the intelligence community. The horrifying part is we don't know a lot of those folks that came across. They are going after primarily violent offenders. But let me be clear. There were terrorists that came across the border, and that should horrify every American. And I love the left's language with the majority of people. No, that's not true. The majority of people voted the elected officials that we have. I feel sorry for those agents out there because I worked 30 years, never woke up once or knew anybody that woke up once and said, boy, I hope I get to hurt or kill somebody today. It was the opposite. It was protect and serve. And the rhetoric on the left is astounding that they would frame it as executioners or murders. What do you think that's going to do to the American population as that propaganda goes forward? And so I would weigh in with they're simply trying to do their job legally.
And they must feel that they have the full and unequivocal backing of the administration when we've had these 2 incidents now. Kristi Noem came out very quickly. Pete Hegseth came out quickly. Trump came out quickly. Do you think there's a suggestion, though, Tim, that there is too much urgency in terms of coming out and picking a side? I was watching carefully today when this news broke, and I have to say I was appalled by what Tim Walz said straight off the back, and also from Mayor Jacob Frey, because they were saying we need to de-escalate whilst escalating in incredibly divisive terms. Doesn't everybody have to everybody, the left particularly in these instances, just wait for information, and they can't wait to politicize it?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And to your point, I mean, all of us are mourning the death of a 30-year-old man that died today. But to your point, if you listen to the governor and the mayor, they're blaming law enforcement for doing what they're supposed to do. And let me be clear, I've probably done several hundred of these warrants over my career. Guess what? On every one, we had the support of local law enforcement. Law enforcement was with us. They supported us. We have cases here, Bev, where the Chicago police failed to respond when officers were involved in a shooting and surrounded by a crowd. Now we see what's happening in Minneapolis. Let me tell you, this is a well-orchestrated, well-funded effort to do three things. It's disrespect the police, defund the police, and ultimately destroy the police. And rule of law is how they're trying to do it. Because if you can selectively decide what you want enforced and not, it's not a government by the people anymore.
No. And can I just check with you, just to be clear, ICE agents aren't just going around rounding up people that don't look like white Americans, are they? Are they targeted warrants? They go and knock on doors, Tim?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the other talking point from the left. Here's the reality. Law enforcement in the U.S., the most regulated occupation of all occupations. Body cams, extensive review, judicial and otherwise. They don't just charge up to people and grab them, and they certainly don't do it based on race. They are targeting folks, to your point earlier, that have criminal offenses regardless of what your colleague says. That's the focus. They're trying to clean up the mess, to your earlier colleague's point, 20 million people. It's insane, and I just want to say this. I know these folks. Every day they get up and they do their job. Now, I want you to look on the camera and see how they have to do their job every day. None of us ever thought we'd be in a position where this level of violence targeting them, their families, their homes would be tolerated in the United States. I think the U.S. is at a crossroads. We have to decide, are we going to be under the rule of law or chaos and confusion?
Yeah, there's 3 more years of this, Tim. Former Secret Service and ICE agent Tim Miller, thank you so much for joining us on The Late Show Live. As a little clunky, apologies for that. Now, if you're just joining us this evening, let me bring you an update on tonight's breaking news. Thousands of anti-ICE protesters, we've just been saying, have taken to the streets of Minneapolis after a man was shot dead by customs and immigration enforcement agents. The victim has been identified as 37-year-old Alex Pretty. In response to the situation, the Department of Homeland Security released a statement claiming that the individual approached officers with a semi-automatic handgun, adding that officers attempted to disarm the suspect but were met with violent resistance. We're going to return to this topic shortly. Let me know what you think at home. GBNews.com/you'll would you like to see ICE agents in the UK? I think I know the answer to that question. In some more breaking news this evening, the Home Office has announced plans for a new nationwide police force to target national and international crimes such as terrorism, fraud and organised crime. With me now, I'm delighted to say, I don't talk to him often enough, it's GBNews' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, thank you so much for joining me this evening. What a pleasure to see you. Right, good news. Is this, Mark, I can't work out what the benefits will be of this new national police force. How is it going to change policing in the UK?
I've missed you, Bev, but I still watch you every evening. But yeah, no, I think potentially this is a positive move. It's been greeted with a great deal of positivity within policing circles. Senior policing figures believe that this is long overdue. And there is no doubt that this is the most fundamental reform, shake-up of the police service since the modern police service was founded some 2 centuries ago. We are based in the United Kingdom on a 43 regional police force structure right across England and Wales. Now we're going to a national police service for those most serious of crimes that you outlined there. Terrorism, transnational criminality such as people smuggling, fraud, child exploitation that happens online. Some of the national services like the National Police Air Service, the helicopters, the drones and alike, the roads policing service, they'll all be subsumed into this national service. And the thinking behind it, Bev, is to try to allow those regional police forces to concentrate on their core policing. And for some of the more complex crimes that regional police forces have to, at the moment, grapple with on a daily basis, they can step back from that, allow this national agency to deal with that while they concentrate, as I say, on the bread and butter criminality that has people so exercised that blights communities right across the country. We have it, of course, you have it in the United States here with the likes of the FBI dealing with those very significant major transnational crimes that take place in Australia, in France, in Spain, in so many countries around the world. They have this national policing model that now it seems we're going to replicate here in the UK.
I wonder how it will go down with police officers, Mark, whether the officers themselves will be pleased with this, and is it a job that everyone's going to want to do, I wonder?
I think by and large it will be welcomed by police officers across the country, providing it's a model that is funded properly and it doesn't detract from the regional police forces, but actually adds, gives them the ability to concentrate on what they need to be concentrating on with local crime. Because quite frankly, what you've got at the moment, especially with some of the smaller forces, Bev, is they just don't have the the resources, the capability, the expertise to deal with some of these really significant major crimes that cross regional borders and, of course, national borders as well.
Yeah. Mark, I can't have you here as our Home and Security Editor without asking your opinion on the situation in Minneapolis, these incredibly febrile kind of riots and potential protests going on in Minneapolis. When you watch what's happening here in America, what's your assessment of the situation?
Well, there's no doubt, we're in a very difficult situation in the States at the moment in terms of what is happening with regard to the drive by President Trump to get those immigration officers going after those, in particular criminals, to get them rounded up, to get them taken out of the country, and the resistance that there is to that from the left, in particular these activist groups. And that's what we're seeing manifesting itself just obviously in Minneapolis, but in so many other parts of the United States as well, with effectively professional activists that are going out and confronting ICE agents as they're involved in quite tricky operations to go after people with a criminal history. That is the majority of the people that are being rounded up. Today's incident involved an Ecuadorian man with a history of violent criminality. That's who ICE were going after. And of course, those ICE officers are armed in dealing with that. They never know what they're going to come up against. You add to the mix then groups of people who are determined to get in the way of those ICE officers officers as they go about their lawful duty of arresting these individuals. And if some of those are carrying firearms as well, the risk assessment that these ICE officers are having to do right there and at the scene as they're involved with potentially violent struggles is very difficult. You've got all these people now, Bev, analysing what they've seen on the video and saying, this should never have happened. How could you possibly have shot this man? You'd taken a gun away. You could see there were a significant group of officers wrestling with this individual, and one officer shouting gun, firearm. It's, you know, a confusing and dangerous and volatile situation that is being exacerbated by individuals that want to insert themselves in the lawful duties of these ICE agents, and that just adds to the risk very significantly.
And let me ask you, Mark, because it can be problematic when politicians pile in on a situation like this in the immediate aftermath. Everybody has to pick a side. There's no space for nuance, is there? However, I can't help but draw comparisons between the UK and the US at times like this. And when you think about the fact that we've got legislation which means that the law enforcement officers and troops that were involved in troubles in Ireland might find themselves 30, 40, 50 years ago might find themselves back in court, the comparison between how we treat our law enforcement compared to America, where they come out and they back them so quickly, the Department of Homeland Security backing their officers. I wonder whether, Mark, that our police officers look at that and think, I'd quite like some of that support when we get into difficulties.
I think you make an excellent point there. There's often situations in this country where the police just don't feel that they've got the backing of some of these state agencies, such as the Independent Office for Police Conduct, who are called in to investigate any time there's a police-involved shooting or something like that. And the police feel that often they don't receive the backing of those individuals. But what you've got playing in the United States, though, at the moment is a very worrying situation, I have to say, because you've got, of course, the government, the state government, in terms of the President of the United States and his drive to go after the illegal immigrant population that are involved, particularly in criminality. And then you've got quite a number of states who are very opposed to this. And Minneapolis, Minnesota, is one of those states where you've got the state governor very resistant. You've got the mayor in Minneapolis very resistant to this as well, moralizing effectively about what's going on, and all the while not giving the kind of law enforcement backing that they should be giving to these ICE officers going about their duties, so that you find ICE officers turning up to effect an arrest, but then being surrounded by the mob with no local law enforcement there just to try and separate the two and take some of the heat out of the situation, because that's coming from their political leaders at the state level and of course at the local mayoral level as well. Okay, brilliant, Mark. I'm so interested to hear your opinion on all of this that's happening here. Thank you for joining the Late Show. What a pleasure. What a pleasure for me, Mark. What a privilege. Mark White there. Right, moving on this evening. Thanks, Mark. Right, if you're just joining us, let us bring you up to date on this breaking news tonight. Thousands of anti-ICE protesters are still on the streets of Minneapolis this evening. A man was shot dead by Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. 37-year-old Alex Pretty. He's been described as, in response to the situation, the Department of Homeland Security released a social media statement claiming the individual approached officers with a semi-automatic handgun, said the officers attempted to disarm him but were met with violent resistance. Of course, in these days of social media, a video was out incredibly quickly of the incident, which means that everybody at home is judge, jury. So to have an opinion and jumping online to give their opinion of what happened as well. We are watching the pictures in Minneapolis, but with me now is the director of the Border Security and Immigration Centre at the Heritage Foundation, Laura Rees joins us now. Evening, Laura. Thank you so much. Good to see you. So,
What's your assessment of the situation tonight, and do you have a clear understanding of what these protesters are so upset about?
Well, the protesters claim that they are, anti-ICE. They want to defund ICE. They want ICE out of Minneapolis and out of Minnesota. Even the governor of Minnesota has said that, as well as the mayor. But ICE is there to do its job, to enforce the law, and they are seeking to arrest serious criminals. And so it's difficult to understand why these protesters support these criminals staying in those communities, or why does the mayor and the governor support these criminals, predators, sex traffickers, et cetera, staying in those communities. And so there's a larger play here, which is just to sow chaos, sow division in America, and Minneapolis is the heartbeat of that right now.
And President Trump is obviously incredibly frustrated by this. He started his press conference on Tuesday holding up pictures of individuals that ICE had arrested. They had repeated criminal crimes against their names, a lot of them. And how do we fix this, Laura? How do we close the gap between the intention of the Republican government, which is to do what they were elected to do, which is to kick out the bad guys, and those people who are protesting, who seem to want the bad guys to stay? Because it's so irrational for me. And Mally Smith is here with me, and we will talk to Mally more because he seems to understand it from their point of view. But how do you bridge this gap in intention?
Right. Well, Americans voted in November of 2024 for President Trump to come back and to secure our southern border and to carry out very thorough immigration enforcement, because the Biden administration had done such grave and historic damage to our country, to our sovereignty, to our economy, to our public safety, to our national security. And so this is what Americans voted for. But cleaning up a mess of millions of illegal aliens is not easy. But the left worked very hard to bring in those millions of people in just 4 short years. They aren't going to sit back and let their political base, their voters, their ballot harvesters, their census head count just be deported. And so for the left, they claim that this is about ICE, and they claim it is about protecting those in their community. But really, for many, it is about protecting their political power.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Laura. Laura Rees there from the Heritage Foundation. Let me come back to my panel. Mally Smith, try again, mate. Try to convince us that these protesters have a point, because I'm genuinely open to be convinced that I'm wrong on this. I just know as a mother, if I was in England and the Prime Minister said, we're just going to kick out all the people who've got here illegally, that in the UK, all the people who've come over on dinghies, all the people who've come over on trucks, and then committed crime. Do you know what we're going to do? We're going to find out where they live, we're going to knock on the door, we're going to take them out, we're going to sling them home. What's not to like?
Well, I do have the burden of answering this question, having had the Heritage Foundation ICE officer, whoever that British guy was, and then you two, and then whoever down
it's
the
a
line
big ask,
UK.
Mally, but I know it's not beyond your capabilities.
10, so I will do my best, and with the caveat that I do not speak for all the protesters. So look, my view is this. I believe we could have a more sane immigration policy where we focus on violent criminals and not folks who have been in the community for years who do not pose a risk. And for example, let's say you have someone who came over with their family when they were 4 years old. They came over from Mexico, they moved to my home state of North Carolina, and now they're 28. They are not a citizen. If they have lived in North Carolina from 4 on, and they are good citizens, they went to college, they have a good job, I am fine with providing them a pathway to citizenship, and I don't think it is moral to deport them because their parents took them when they were kids to a different country, and they might not even have any ties to that country anymore. So there are examples like that where I think a pathway to citizenship makes sense. And then the second thing on ICE, I do not think all ICE agents are bad people. My cousin is in law enforcement. I have lots of family members and friends who are in law enforcement. But I do believe that there are sensible reforms, like requiring ICE agents to wear body cameras. Mr. Tim Miller said law enforcement officials wear body cameras.
I know, but you
love
filming everything. You just love filming. It's your solution to everything is just film it. There's enough blooming cameras filming all this action anyway. That's the last
thing. But I'm just saying there's some general reforms like that I think would restore trust in ICE.
But Mali, what difference will a camera make?
People who've... Hang on, Layla, hang on. But I am conscious you're there, Layla, and I do want to bring you in. I genuinely do, but I still don't feel like I'm getting it. Because when you say not all ICE agents are bad, well, I think that's clearly, obviously true, but the people who are protesting think all ICE agents are bad, and what they are objecting to is the idea that all immigrants are bad. So everybody's thinking in these hideous binary terms, and it ends up with people getting shot because the left can't just, people who hate President Trump, just don't let them get on with their job. Just because my understanding as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hillary, you might know about this as well, but my understanding is, from researching this topic, if they knock on the door of someone, is as you described, they've been here for 20 years, they've held down a job, they haven't committed a crime, those people then have a process to stay and apply to live here.
Yes, they do.
And they are not the ones being kicked out.
Yes, and by the way, earlier Mali said that no, it wasn't 70%. Now, I can't say that it's incorrect, but I looked up on the Homeland Security, and when I said that 72% of those arrested have been convicted of some kind of crime and they have a record, that's exactly what the Homeland Security website says too. They said the statistic is over 70% are criminals, pedophiles, etc. So your instance of somebody here that's been a citizen and they pay their taxes and they've gone to college and everything, that's not who they're arresting. They're actually predominantly going after people with criminal records. And just to my earlier point about Obama deporting over 3 million during his administration and Clinton 1.5 million, so far in this administration, President Trump they've only deported about 125,000. This is the left being mobilized from somewhere because those very same citizens did not under Obama and Clinton. The best thing that the Trump administration could do is go out there with loudspeakers and broadcast Clinton and Obama.
Let me ask Layla Cunningham in London about the optics of this strategy, because my feeling, Layla, is because this is so visual, the ICE agents are such a noisy visual image of getting rid of people that shouldn't be here, it's acting as a brilliant deterrent. And if we had something similar in the UK, we obviously have border force people who go and immigration officers go and knock on doors. We never see it. It's very peaceful. It's done behind closed doors. It's clearly not acting as a deterrent. Should we have something similar?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need a deterrent, and we need law and order, and we need to protect our borders. The men of ICE, they're just enforcing, as I said, deportation orders, and I think people in England will welcome that. We feel that illegal migrants are almost prioritised, their rights are prioritised over those of the British people. We see it in housing, we see it in criminal masses. Our government has decriminalised illegal entry into our country, and British citizens find that fundamentally unfair, but on another level, it's a massive national security risk. We don't know who's coming on those boats, yet they house them in towns and centres and allow them to roam free. And some, we have learned, have been convicted bomb makers from the Muslim Brotherhood. Others have gone to sexually assault young girls. So we do need a strong border force like ICE to be a deterrent. Sadly, there is no deterrent right now. There is only incentive.
If we picture a reform government in a few years' time, Layla, that you would no doubt be part of if you are not London Mayor by that point, do you think that if a reform government was to enact something similar, we would have protests like this on the streets of the UK? Are there enough people who would want to protect illegal migrant criminals on the streets of in England, that we would see things like this on the streets there, do you think?
Yeah, I think we would see that. I mean, we have the Green Party that's polling surprisingly above 10%, despite being, the leader being a hypnotist who hypnotised women for larger breasts. His Christmas message was on the border, saying, we should welcome illegal migrants to our country. So I think we do have people who don't value the sovereignty of a country and don't value the meaning of secure borders. It's almost suicidal empathy, as someone has said, because we cannot be a safe nation if we don't know who's coming in.
Mali, you wanted to come in.
Well, I was just going to say one correction. DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, those are the example I mentioned. They do not have a pathway to citizenship. Originally, when DACA was instituted, the idea is they wouldn't be prioritized and they wouldn't be targeted for deportation. And the Trump administration has rolled that back. They have indicated they are open to deporting folks who are DACA recipients and have deported folks who are DACA recipients. So that is not true.
Okay. Well, the awful thing about these statistics is that there is no trust on any. Nobody trusts. The left don't trust your official numbers. The right don't trust examples, let's say, anecdotal that you could come up with, or you would say my facts are different to yours, or.
Well, Bev,
it's such a desperately sad situation in a country that is literally has the word united in its name.
The thing that I find too that's really sad about it, let alone just putting aside the immigration issue and just how divided we are, the shooting with Renee Good, this shooting, the video comes out and everyone sees different things. I mean, Hillary and I have been on this, we've debated, and we are genuinely feel as we feel, but we are seeing this completely differently. And I mean, I don't know how we get past that in a nation where we can see videos and come to completely opposite conclusions.
Yeah. Let's talk now to Tiffany Marie Brannan, who is the host of the Tiffany Marie Brannan Show. Tiffany, thank you very much for joining me this evening. What are your thoughts when you see these protests on the streets of Minneapolis, and how does anybody bridge this gap whilst President Trump is still in office? Because I can't help but think so much of this is Trump derangement syndrome. It doesn't matter what he does or what his intentions are. People will always be out there protesting at anything that he executes.
Absolutely. And, you know, as you guys just mentioned, it doesn't matter that Obama and Biden and Clinton, all these people actually deported people under their administration, and Obama was the deporter in chief. We look at President Trump and the numbers, and the difference is crazy, and the treatment of the difference is crazy. Now, what's really sad to me is that there are now signal chats that have become, you know, very evident on X and some other platforms today in Minneapolis that are stalking ICE agents, that are writing down license plates, that are writing down where they're at, that are basically organized to attack these federal officers. And, you know, we can argue about the term, oh, you can't call them illegal, oh, you're dehumanizing them. These are criminals. These are people that are convicted child predators, traffickers, rapists, thieves. And let's not even discuss the fact that Minneapolis itself has a massive fraud problem due to the mass amount of illegal immigrants that are there. And, you know, the reality is that this Trump derangement syndrome is very, very real. And you see people like this unfortunate guy, Patrick, I think was his name, who got shot today. And it's terrible. But why are these individuals coming up to law enforcement officers who are armed, who are dealing with an 8,000% increase in attacks and in threats, coming up to them aggressively in their face while they're armed? I mean, this is kind of just basic, you don't do this 101.
Just explain to our predominantly British audience, Tiffany, if you don't mind, what you alluded to there, which is the $9 billion fraud in Minnesota. My understanding, 90 people have been charged so far. And just tell us what that's about. There's a large Somali community in Minneapolis, isn't there?
Yeah, it's actually completely insane. So Jacob Frey, right, who's in charge of Minneapolis, and then you have Tim Walz. Thank goodness he is not my vice president, Tampon Tim, who's in charge of Minnesota. Now, right now, just one single lawsuit against Feed Our Future, which is a fake, you know, fraudulent nonprofit, is for $250 million that the American taxpayer has been defrauded by. A lot of Somalians and a lot of, you know, fake immigrants. That's just in Minneapolis alone. Meanwhile, we've managed to, thanks to the work of investigative reporters like Nick Shirley, Anthony Rubin, and all these guys that are on the ground doing the work, we know that there's a minimum of $9 billion estimated of fraud that is taking place right now in the state of Minnesota that we are trying to go after. So when you see Tim Walz and Jacob Frey out in front of public media and on the news and on X, really inciting violence and inciting what could be claimed to be insurrection against federal law enforcement agencies, against officers, against the Trump administration, against people that are trying to enact the will of the American people. Because I, as a U.S. taxpayer, I want people deported. Everyone I know wants people deported. We are sick of our country being taken over. So really what this seems to be by individuals like Jacob Frey and Tim Walz is a distraction. They don't want the people deported out of their state, their city, because A, it's going to look really bad once we uncover everything. And also they might lose a congressional seat. But B, this is a distraction to try to keep, you know, the the hand over here when the reality is over here.
Yeah, I mean, let me bring Mally in here. Mally, I'm sure you've got something you'd like to say to Tiffany there in disagreement with her position.
Well, look, I mean, as I've said, I just feel like there is a more rational and logical way to do immigration enforcement, which again, I know Tiffany said that a lot of the folks have been violent immigrants, but there is also data that a lot of folks have not been violent immigrants, and I just think we could have a system where we provided a pathway to citizenship, and then that also freed up ICE to be able to really focus on those who have committed crime. But I understand that there's a difference of opinion, and I have debated now 8 different people on it, but we will continue since I'm the only person who has that opinion.
We love you
this
for it,
entire
Mally.
show.
We do.
Yes.
Well, it's a simple way to stop these deaths. Don't come illegally.
Yeah, and what I would just like to say to you is that in 1790, we had the Naturalization Act of 1790, and that really brought, that was the word illegal immigrant, right? And then we have it codified by the Immigration Reform and Control Act of 1986. So that was under the Reagan administration. So the term illegal immigrant is very important to use here because we're talking about like, oh, well, they're not all terrible violent criminals, they're undocumented workers. They entered the country illegally, and to diminish it as an undocumented migrant is to diminish the crime of entering my country and violating my country's sovereignty just because they wanted to live on welfare or have a job or whatever it is they're coming to seek here. And the reality is, like, we can argue about it all day, but just because they haven't raped somebody or trafficked in drugs doesn't mean that they are not illegally here and violating federal law.
Okay, thank you, Tiffany. Go on, 30 seconds.
Well, I was just going to say, even Trump himself has said that he doesn't believe immigration enforcement should focus on farming and hospitality because these are folks who are doing important and critical jobs. You might get mad at that sentiment, but that's Trump's own sentiment that maybe we shouldn't focus on those people because they're doing important jobs. So there's even some disagreement within the MAGA coalition on this, and most Americans support a pathway to citizenship.
Okay, thank you so much, Tiffany. Tiffany Marie Brannan there. Thank you for joining the Late Show Live. Thank you, Mally. Thank you all at home. Robin says we need some sort of armed force to round up the illegal migrants in the UK. Funnily enough, a lot of you are saying that. We're going to bring you a bit more on this story and more after your weather.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a pretty grey end to the weekend. There is still going to be some rain around, but it is turning patchy as we head towards the evening, and temperatures just staying around average as well. We still have some yellow weather warnings across Northern Ireland and the eastern parts of Scotland, but they are easing as we go through this morning. We could even see some drier spells for Northern Ireland and some brightness trying to poke through. But we still have some cloud across the central swathe of northern England. It is turning patchy as we head towards the afternoon, and we do have some hill snow across Scotland as well. Temperatures wise around the mid single figures, which is normally what we would expect as we head towards the end of January. Now, not everyone will see this cloud. The best of the brightness will be across the very far southwest, so Devon and Cornwall may even see some sunnier spells by the afternoon, but we do have this rain across southern parts of Wales and a lot of cloud for the rest of England. Like I said, brighter spells for Northern Ireland, and then we still have some showers continuing across Scotland as well. A lot of these showers are turning towards hill snow through the afternoon, and that will continue through much of the evening. Now that cloud is going to stick around for us for much of the evening and through the overnight period, so temperatures aren't really going to fall away too much, and it is turning a little bit drier as well. May still get some patchy light rain and drizzle across the hills, but where we do have the clearer skies across the very far southwest, could see those temperatures fall away and maybe even get a bit of a frost in a few localised spots. But otherwise, most places staying frost-free around those lower single figures. Now, as we head through into the new week, we do introduce this band of rain moving in towards the west, which will reach the West Country and eventually reach Northern Ireland by midday. But elsewhere, it's going to be a mostly dry day. Still got that cloud, and we still have a few showers up towards the north. But under that cloud, temperatures really not falling away too much, around the mid-single figures.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show, live from Washington, D.C. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death.
In Minneapolis tonight, after another shooting by ICE officers, protesters have taken to the streets and clashed with federal agents. And President Trump has praised British soldiers who fought in Afghanistan after facing a furious backlash over earlier comments, suggesting that British forces avoided the front line. But was it King Charles who got on the phone and told him to issue a statement? Also breaking tonight, the Home Office has announced a new nationwide police force designed to tackle the most serious and complex crimes is going to be rolled out across England and Wales.
Andy Burnham is doing an excellent job as Mayor of Manchester. We work very closely together.
Starmer may not be talking like that in a couple of weeks because Andy Burnham looks like he's set to make his return to Parliament and threaten the Prime Minister perhaps in an early leadership bid. More on that shortly. Meanwhile, here in Washington in the next few hours, a major snowstorm is going to be sweeping across the United States. It's going to bring 12 inches of snow apparently and minus 30-degree temperatures. I have bought a new hat and gloves. This is Bev Turner on The Late Show Live. I am delighted tonight to be joined in the studio by political commentator Hilary Fordwich and Democrat strategist Mally Smith, and in London, of course, Reform UK's brand newly announced mayoral candidate Layla Cunningham. If you're only just tuning in, you've missed some great debates in the first hour, so more of that to come. But can I just ask you, Americans here, you're an honorary American, aren't you, Hilary? How bad is this storm going to be?
Pretty bad. And as a North Carolinian, where we usually don't have snow, I am never prepared for it. But I might sound like someone with Trump derangement syndrome. I feel like Trump brought this on us by attacking Greenland. We talked mean stuff about Greenland, and Greenland sent their weather to us. We wanted Greenland, and Greenland got us. This is Arctic Greenland-like weather.
Well, I will say that in all my years in the US, I've never heard them ever say we're going to have definite power outages. You're going to have power outages here mainly because it's not just the 10 inches of snow in Washington, D.C., it's the ice. And it's the fact that we're going to have temperatures in 20 degrees this coming week. That is obviously Fahrenheit, not centigrade. But that is well below freezing. So we're going to have the ice, the snow layer, and just the infrastructure can't take it. Unlike in the UK, most of our power is actually above ground. We have these power lines that you see along the roads and the streets and the lanes here. So power outages, definitely. The best thing to do is to load up on your wood, have a real fire, and if you hopefully have a gas stove, to be able to put on pots of water and have them boil, because it's going to be freezing cold, and lots of candles.
Oh, I think you're all exaggerating. I think you're all exaggerating.
Nope,
I was chatting to somebody in my apartment block, and she said, have you been to the supermarket? Have you bought everything? I was like, come on, we'll be fine. I was like, all the people that loved lockdowns are so looking forward to this. I bet you loved a lockdown, didn't you, Mally?
I didn't love the lockdown.
You did.
The Trader Joe's that is near where I live, you would think the White Walkers from Game of Thrones are coming. Like, there is nothing there. It has been ransacked.
Trader Joe's is a supermarket.
My mummy always used to say, oh, do Americans always get diarrhea when there's a snowstorm? Because the toilet rolls go immediately. It's the first thing to go.
Let me ask Layla in London. Layla, can you relate to my sort of British attitude when it comes to this sort of extreme weather? You know, I kind of get like, come on, how bad is it going to be? But am I being terribly naive on this occasion? You've got relatives who live in Washington.
You know, we'll handle it, but that's a very British way, because my husband's a bit like your guests. And yeah, my sister-in-law lives in Washington, my husband's American. You do get pretty bad storms there. I mean, we think it gets cold here, but it's always mild compared to where you are.
Yeah, well, we are all actually, the GBNews team, we're staying in a little hotel around the corner tonight because they said I wouldn't be able to get back to my apartment. So that's added a bit of drama to the occasion. But we are on snow watch. I know this might come back and haunt me, Mally, saying this, but we are on snow watch, and we will let you know, because I think Washington might avoid the worst of it, but boy, it is horrific in other parts of America from tonight. The snow lands here in exactly 1 hour's time. No,
and supposedly
about midnight tonight here.
Yes.
4 hours time.
It starts at 9 and it gets heavy around midnight. There's a 100% chance all through to tomorrow morning, and the estimate is that 1 million Americans will, at a minimum, will be without power.
And this is going to test our emergency response, because It's essentially affecting the entire South into the Northwest, and a lot of southern states, like I said, growing up in North Carolina, are not prepared for cold weather. So hopefully, we've been joking about it, but hopefully everyone's prepared and nothing bad happens.
Well, and all the flights are cancelled, so it can't go anywhere.
Listen, there's a little hot tub in my Hilton. I'll be devastated if that's not working.
But Ben Leo did get out to go back to the birthday of his kids.
Ben Leo made it home. Right, moving on to our main news here in America this evening, and it is, of course, Minneapolis. Thousands of anti-ICE protesters have taken to the streets. If you're just joining us, a man was shot dead by ICE agents this afternoon. The victim has been identified as 37-year-old Alex Jeffrey Pretty.
As DHS law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted operation in Minneapolis against an illegal alien. During this operation, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The agents attempted to disarm the individual, but he violently resisted. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, a Border Patrol agent fired defensive shots.
Greg Bavino there, Border Patrol commander, and we also heard today from Minneapolis Mayor, the very controversial Jacob Frey, who, just as on the last occasion, the last shooting of Nicole Good, lambasted the president and the White House very quickly following the incident.
To President Trump, this is a moment to act like a leader. Put Minneapolis, put America first in this moment. Let's achieve peace. Let's end this operation, and I'm telling you, our city will come back. Safety will be restored.
And also the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, attacked federal agents, accusing them of sowing chaos and violence.
Donald Trump, I call on you once again. Remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. And the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. They think they can provoke us into abandoning our values. Well, they're dead wrong.
And also, we've heard from President Trump on this. He went to Truth Social, his social media site, where he said, "Where are the local police? Why weren't they allowed to protect ICE officers?" The mayor and the governor called them off. Question: it is stated that many of these police were not allowed to do their job, that ICE had to protect themselves. Not an easy thing to do. The mayor and the governor are inciting insurrection. With their pompous, dangerous and arrogant rhetoric, he said, let our ICE patriots do their job. 12,000 illegal alien criminals, many of them violent, have been arrested and taken out of Minnesota. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth also voiced his support for the agents, posting, "Thank God for the patriots of ICE." He said, "We have your back 100%. You are saving the country. Shame on the leadership of Minnesota and the lunatics in the street." And also today we heard from Secretary of State for Homeland Security Kristi Noem, who said this.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics were on the scene immediately and attempted to deliver medical aid to the subject, but he was pronounced dead at the scene.
So, Mali, coming to you again as the person who defends the protesters, and I know this is not an easy job. What do we do now, Mali? What is going to happen in Minneapolis? What's the next step?
Well, I think I'll take a step back and instead of arguing the details of this, because I feel like I've kind of hit the same points.
Yeah.
I do think it'll be interesting to see politically how this plays out, because currently there's a government funding bill right now that is going through the motions, and it's going to need a few Democratic votes in the Senate to pass. This is not to fully fund the government, it's to fund part of the government, which includes Homeland Security, which ICE is included in Homeland Security, and a few other departments. Right now, before this shooting, it was looking like there was going to be enough Democratic votes in the Senate to pass this bill. From what I am seeing on Twitter and just the arguments here, that I think the few Democrats who would have crossed the line and voted with Senate Republicans to get to the 60 votes that you would need to pass the Senate and get the bill to Trump's desk, I think they could not be there. So I think what you could have potentially from this is a DHS shutdown, which would affect parts of the government because of this. And I think it's just more of an example of how much this has become politically toxic and how divided we are as a country.
Let me tell you what Megyn Kelly has just tweeted. She is a conservative commentator, for those of you who don't know. She said President Trump should pull ICE out of Minneapolis today and announce there'll be no more immigration enforcement in Minneapolis at all. She said all illegals in the US are encouraged to move there. And if any illegal is found outside of Minneapolis and gets deported, they can never apply for re-entry. I wonder how the people of Minneapolis would feel about that if that's what President Trump said they should do.
Well, actually, they seem to like illegals there, so maybe they'll take them in and maybe they'll take them into their own homes as well.
Correct.
They can house them there, and then that way the American taxpayer wouldn't have to house an illegal and we wouldn't have to fund them, and we're actually funding with our tax dollars. We're having to fund ICE as well because of the Biden administration letting in 20 million illegals. And it just baffles me that any parent, any citizen, any taxpayer really does want somebody who's a criminal in our country. And again, going back to Homeland Security and the actual data on their website, they say that over 70% of those who have been arrested are convicted criminals. They're pedophiles. They've had violent arrests previously. And I think you've seen with some of the murders, everybody keeps talking about this man Pretty, which I think is sad, and also Renee Good. But what about people like Laken Riley? What about those who have been killed by illegals? What about all those families who've lost their loved ones due to the crimes of illegals? We need to remember their names at this time as well, I believe.
Well, Bev, real quickly, I don't really care, though, about what Megyn Kelly says ever since she said, Jeffrey Epstein wasn't that bad because the girls that he assaulted were 15 years old.
Oh, no, I know what she meant by that. I totally know what she meant by that.
So that's a disgusting comment. So I really don't care what she has to say about immigration.
She's not here to defend herself, so let me explain what I think she meant by that. We are going to go off on a bit of a tangent, unfortunately, but I think her point was that I'm not going to try and explain Megyn Kelly's point, but I understand what it is she was trying to say in terms of she was saying this isn't 5-year-old girls. She was just being factual, I think, about the taste of Jeffrey Epstein. That is it. That's all she was trying to make the point, I think, on that occasion. But Megyn Kelly is more than capable.
Don't need to defend Jeffrey Epstein.
No, absolutely. Nobody doesn't. But I think in terms of understanding that situation, it was important to understand these were girls who were at school. It wasn't toddlers. I think that was the point she was making. Shall we talk to Layla in London on this topic? I'm not sure what else we can add, Layla Cunningham, at this point. We know at the end of this point by today, another man has lost his life. I suppose what is quite interesting perhaps about Minneapolis is that this was, of course, the home of George Floyd. And so tensions are already always on a bit of a knife edge in that particular city and in that state. And I wonder whether years of grievance culture, one might say, and identity politics has led us to the point where people are poised to go out on the streets and protest anything that appears to be, let's face it, right-wing.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, Bev, is that you have politicians like Waltz and the mayor that you played who are publicly vilifying people who are just law enforcement. They're doing a public service, and I'm sure it's not fun for them either. And when leaders vilify them, they become targets. And when public people trying to maintain order become targets, that endangers everyone. And that creates chaos. And so I do blame the chaos at the leaders' doors because they're trying to inflame it. They're making it a personal vendetta against Trump when these people are really just trying to do their job. And I'm sure, they don't want to kill anyone. They don't want any harm. I'm not sure of the tactics, And then in terms of having that in England, number one, our law enforcement is not armed. And I just think that does bring another element to ICE. I mean, in all fairness, it must be quite scary if you're on the ground and you see. I mean, they do look quite scary just looking at them in masks and armed. But if I saw something like that, I would stay away. I wouldn't try and fight them because I think the whole point is that they're meant to look intimidating. You know, I think it's very careless to encourage, as leaders, to encourage people to go and protest against armed law enforcement because they know the outcome to that.
One more guest on this, and I promise you we will move on. Thank you, Layla, and apologies if you saw the writing on that vehicle there with the offensive language on it. Of course, we apologise for that if you were offended by that. Let's speak now to US Senate candidate for Minnesota, Marissa Simonetti joins me now. Marissa, you'll be standing as an independent candidate at the midterms in 2026. You are obviously a local there. Your thoughts on this incredibly difficult, heightened tension situation there this evening?
Emotions are very, very high. The biggest challenge it seems like everyone faces is, like was mentioned before facts or due process have even had the opportunity to play out. Each side is selecting facts that line up with their position that they want to protect. And that really undermines public trust because people are starting to wonder if they're even being presented with a fair data set.
It's about controlling the narrative at a time like this, Marissa, isn't it? That seems to be the instinct, even though Tim Walz can stand up there and say, this is dreadful, ICE, you know, you need to get out of our city, and Frey saying the same thing, Mayor Frey, trying to push the narrative and control and weaponise and politicise everything. I don't think we'll ever row back from that, Marissa. I think in an age of social media, maybe that's how things will always be.
People really seem to be leaning into truth and reality recently, and I feel encouraged that people are starting to see beyond some of these things. Today, we immediately see two separate set of facts. One side of facts says he was holding a cell phone, and another side of facts said he was holding a gun. Those two things, maybe they're true at the same time, maybe he was holding both. But there seems to be locking in to a particular position before we've had the chance to explore under due process, under the law, and what structure actually matters in use of force decisions and things like that. So a lot of these times, not every situation is the same. We've got to slow down a little bit and think, what really happened?
And do you understand why the protesters are on the street, standing, I saw some footage today of a woman, you know, like a foot away from an ICE agent saying, what's your name? Where do you live? I'm going to come and smash your windows. It's so aggressive. And I thought, what do you think you're actually doing? What do they think they're doing, Marissa?
It's incredibly heartbreaking. I've gotten out and spoken with a lot of people and been to some protests. And there's a lot of well-intentioned people who feel really frustrated with the lack of facts. And the other most important thing is a lot of people are starting to wonder, because due process moves slowly, if there will be any accountability for federal agents if it's discovered that they're truly acting out of line. And if they feel that their neighbors and community members are being threatened, killed, harmed, and there's no accountability for that, I can understand why that would be very, very upsetting.
Yeah. OK. All right. Thank you so much, Senate candidate for Minnesota, Marissa Simonetti there. Join us again on The Late Show live. Right. Another story now. Was the king behind President Trump's sudden praise for the United Kingdom and our military? We're discussing that in just a moment. This is The Late Show live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Now, this was a huge story, and luckily Donald Trump has rode back on this because he has now praised our very brave British soldiers who served in Afghanistan after his attack appeared to be attacking them for not being on the front line. He got fierce criticism for this, didn't he? He claimed that UK troops had stayed back. Taken to Truth Social, the president wrote, finally, today, this afternoon, the great and very brave, and in capital letters, soldiers of the United Kingdom will always be with the United States of America. In Afghanistan, 457 died, many were badly injured, and they were among the greatest of all warriors. It's a bond too strong to ever be broken. The UK military, with tremendous heart and soul, is second to none. We love you all and always will. President Donald J. Trump. Now, we approached the White House several times yesterday, GB News did, and they weren't backing down. They were doubling down on the statement that Donald Trump had inferred that NATO was always, NATO needed America more than America needed NATO, including British troops. So tonight, according to the Sun newspaper, it was the King who passed on his concerns to the White House, and this is what is apparently caused President Trump to release that statement. Hillary Fordwich, this doesn't look good for Keir Starmer if that's the case.
No, absolutely. It makes Keir Starmer two-tier Keir, or never hear Keir, meaning never in the UK. It makes him look impotent, actually, because he didn't do anything, and if he did do it, it was ineffective. So he's in a lose-lose situation. But just to be very clear here, don't forget, President Trump did not single out British troops. He was referring to all of NATO, and I think the comment actually was rather inappropriate and less than appreciative, particularly after NATO troops, of course, did go into Afghanistan. And I think it was actually more of an inadvertent mistake. I think what was a great pity was when Ben Leo did go over to the White House and he did ask them about the statement, that they doubled down, as you mentioned there, Bev, that they did double down and just issue the same statement. So did they double down? Was it inadvertent? I think it was a grandiose mistake. It's a pity that President Trump didn't apologize for it, but I do think that his statement that he put out was very good. Nevertheless, he still hasn't addressed the other NATO troops that obviously did serve right alongside the American troops in Afghanistan.
Layla Cunningham, what do you think President Trump was being accused of, first of all, when he seemed to suggest that British troops were kind of supplementary to the work of the Americans and everybody objected? Was he being accused of being dismissive of British troops, or was he being accused of getting his facts wrong? Because the two are different, if that makes sense.
I mean, I think people found it disrespectful. You know, Britain carried an enormous share of the burden. And that for me, that service, when we go into war with the US, it strengthens the bond between our nations, right? And it's a bond in blood, almost. And I think he was being criticised for not honouring the sacrifice of our veterans from there. But listen, we can disagree about strategy and everything, but the alliance between the US, the UK and NATO is forged, as I said, in blood and courage, and it's not going to be broken by a soundbite. The bond is too strong, and I think Trump probably misspoke. I don't know.
I think it was, I think it was more of him just getting his fact wrong in that moment. Yes. And there are several instances when he, given how much he talks, never stops talking to the press, literally spends hours. There's times he's just going to get his facts slightly wrong.
Like messing up Greenland and Iceland.
Messing up Greenland and Iceland. Although people on this panel have done that all week, it's a very easy mistake to make, Mally. But do you think then now, Starmer obviously would have liked him to row back on it. He obviously couldn't make that happen, and it's taken the king. It seems plausible, this story, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think President Trump has respect for the king. He has respect for the royal family. But I'm glad that he eventually walked this back. President Trump's kind of modus operandi when it comes to politics is never apologize, never back down, which is a tactic and strategy that sometimes has, or a lot has worked out well for him. But in some instances like this has not been a winning thing for him. And also, too, on NATO, it's important to note, you know, there are issues with NATO. NATO allies need to increase their defense spending and not rely on the U.S. But the collective defense provision of the NATO treaty has been used one time, and that is when the U.S. was attacked in 9/11. So we should not discount and downplay what our allies did for us going into Afghanistan after 9/11. So we need to keep that front and center, that, again, the only time the NATO's collective defense treaty has been used was to defend America, and we should always be grateful for the UK and other nations that came to our aid.
Hillary, it still wasn't actually an apology, though. No. He didn't say, I'm sorry I misspoke, or I'm sorry I got this wrong, or I'm sorry I underestimated, or I forgot my history for a moment. There was no apology in there. He just says, we love you all, we always will.
Yeah,
President Trump.
There was no apology. I think something else that we haven't really talked about yet, but I do think is important, is that Prince Harry weighed in and lambasted President Trump. And remember, the royals are supposed to stay above politics. So not only has he done all he has in terms of throwing his family under the proverbial royal bus, but his father, if he did it privately. He spoke to President Trump, obviously, in a very private, dignified manner. And I think it's a great pity that Prince Harry was so public in his comments there, albeit maybe correct.
It's funny, isn't it? Because when people fall out, sometimes a joint adversary is what brings them together. Can you imagine if it's President Trump that actually brings Harry and his father together now? It's not beyond the realms of our imagination, Layla, that Harry gets on the phone to his dad and goes, oh, I'm glad you've given him, you know, both barrels as well. Honestly, he's a nightmare, isn't he?
But the way they went
he's a
about
nightmare,
it,
isn't he, Dad?
The way they went about it definitely is the line in terms of the way that they have behaved.
Yeah, Layla Cunningham on this. Will it all blow over now, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there are allies. It has to blow over. I think it was a very effusive statement that he put out. You know, it was full of love and respect, and perhaps that is his way of saying sorry. But you know, as I said, we 400. I think it was, have the number here. 457 British soldiers died in Afghanistan, and whatever anyone thinks of the war, whether they agreed with it or not, our troops did their duty with courage and under, you know, sacrifice. And, you know, they were failed also by our political class. You know, we don't treat veterans well in this country.
That's right, absolutely. The irony, I thought, of Keir Starmer coming out, the irony, Layla, of the Prime Minister coming out and saying this is outrageous, appalling statement from the President. I thought, well, words are one thing, but we've got veterans sleeping on the streets in the UK. What are your actions telling us?
And prosecuting those British soldiers with regard to the IRA from years ago.
Yes.
But Bev, not only sleeping, you know, we're housing illegal migrants in 4-star hotels all across the country while our veterans sleep rough in the cold on the streets. What kind of nation does that? for the sacrifice they did. A lot of them have PTSD, a lot of them have mental health issues, and we just let them sleep rough while we welcome illegal migrants and pay for their stay. It's outrageous.
Yeah, Mali, let me ask you just,
Yes.
I've got you here as well because I do like your left-wing opinions. I find them so fascinatingly entertaining. What did you make of Trump's visit to Davos?
Interesting. I mean, it was certainly a time to go there when we had the Greenland situation happening. But I mean, it both was his usual conflict heavy. He was talking about Greenland. He was going in hard. But then his actual speech at Davos was more conciliatory, praising the world leaders. So I think you got kind of the usual Trump, which is you get a lot of hardline stances and a lot of intense rhetoric, but then you also get a lot of flattery, which kind of means you never know where you stand.
Yeah.
Take him seriously, not literally.
Yeah. What did you make of his performance in Davos, Hillary?
Well, I thought actually, let's not determine his performance in terms of my opinion or anybody's opinion. Let's ask the German Chancellor, who actually had to admit that globalism has failed.
Yeah.
And I think that the global elites got the message. I think that President Trump going there, to me, you know what it reminded me of, Bev? It reminded me of when he was running for office and he went into Harlem in New York. He went where most Republicans don't normally go. I love the fact that he's willing to go right into, in quotes, enemy territory. I think it's very brave of him. And interestingly, Two-Tier Keir wasn't here at Davos. He didn't even show up. And I think that's a great pity for the UK. Talk about, letting down the British in terms of not being on the world stage where the world leaders were. And I think President Trump and obviously those others that attended, like Marco Rubio, and also the members of his cabinet that attended, definitely did a very good job.
But the message from Davos is...
Go on, Layla.
Well, it seems like you say, all the globalists are finally admitting that mass immigration was not a good thing after they imposed it on us and called us divisive and racist for calling it out. And finally, they're dancing to our tune. And one has to think, what's changed?
Yeah. And Scott Besson was wonderful in terms of and talking about the economy and talking about how strong the US economy was, and particularly, like President Trump, looking at this zero carbon by 2030 and how the impediment that's put on the UK. And you think about in terms of the 4 times the price of utilities in the UK, price of electricity, and you're sitting on, the UK sits on that shelf of the North Sea and all the oil there. And I think that pointing fingers at that, and Scott Besson's presentation was particularly spectacular.
Yeah, I loved it. Right, just going to take a quick break for the weather, I think, but we are going to also talk to Paul. Layla finds herself on the front page of the Daily Mirror for tomorrow. Layla, I have to say, I think one of the reasons you make the front pages is because you're so blooming pretty. You're just going to keep making the front pages. Whether you like it or not, newspaper editors like to run pictures of beautiful women, Layla, but we will talk to you about the pressure that you are under in just a minute. But also, still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
I think if Andy Burnham wants to be a Member of Parliament, Andy Burnham should be allowed to be a Member of Parliament. I'll try and make time between now and the by-election, go knock some doors for him.
That was the London Mayor Sadiq Khan talking yesterday, I believe that was. Is Andy Burnham on the brink of becoming the greatest threat to Sir Keir Starmer? But first of all, America is going to be hit with what's been described as the storm of the decade. We are hunkered down here in the studio, but we will let you know when the snow starts to fall. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a pretty grey end to the weekend. There is still going to be some rain around, but it is turning patchy as we head towards the evening, and temperatures just staying around average as well. We still have some yellow weather warnings across Northern Ireland and the eastern parts of Scotland, but they are easing as we go through this morning. We could even see some drier spells for Northern Ireland and some brightness trying to poke through. But we still have some cloud across the central swathe of northern England. It is turning patchy as we head towards the afternoon, and we do have some hill snow across Scotland as well. Temperatures wise, around the mid-single figures, which is normally what we would expect as we head towards the end of January. Now, not everyone will see this cloud. The best of the brightness will be across the very far southwest, so Devon and Cornwall may even see some sunnier spells by the afternoon, but we do have this rain across southern parts of Wales and a lot of cloud for the rest of England. Like I said, brighter spells for Northern Ireland, and then we still have some showers continuing across Scotland as well. A lot of these showers are turning towards hill snow through the afternoon, and that will continue through much of the evening. Now, that cloud is going to stick around for us for much of the evening and through the overnight period, so temperatures aren't really going to fall away too much, and it is turning a little bit drier as well. May still get some patchy light rain and drizzle across the hills, but where we do have the clearer skies across the very far southwest, could see those temperatures fall away and maybe even get a bit of a frost in a few localised spots. But otherwise, most places staying frost-free around those lower single figures. Now, as we head through into the new week, we do introduce this band of rain moving in towards the west, which will reach the West Country and eventually reach Northern Ireland by midday. But elsewhere, it's going to be a mostly dry day. Still got that cloud, and we still have a few showers up towards the north. But under that cloud, temperatures really not falling away too much, around the mid-single figures.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So more than 160 million people are going to be hit by a brutal winter storm this weekend in the US. Heavy snow and freezing rain forecast. 3 of those people are sat here on the table with you. President Trump has already approved emergency declarations in 12 states, with temperatures expected to reach as low as -46 degrees. Fahrenheit, presumably that is.
Yes.
Let's cross live to AccuWeather senior meteorologist Melissa Constanza. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. So how bad is this snowstorm going to be? And is my naive, optimistic British spirit of keep calm and carry on rather dangerous at a time like this, Melissa?
You know, I feel you on that. I usually am very much the same, trying to be the calming effect out there. But this is, as you mentioned, impacting millions of Americans, and it's spanning quite a bit. We're talking about 2,500 kilometers of snow already breaking out. I'll actually take you to the radar for a moment and show you what that looks like, because again, it is stretching much of the U.S., which, as you know, is a big nation here, from snow from Texas to states like Virginia and Maryland, already unfolding here across the Ohio Valley. South of it, you're getting the boundary. If you've ever been to the Gulf of Mexico, you know it's a very shallow, warm body of water. Well, this is pumping moisture up into an Arctic air mass. And so we do have some very heavy rain. We'll be talking about thunderstorms and severe weather, but we also have all this snow and cold on the northern side. So this is where the battleground plays out. And unfortunately, it's a battleground that's impacting, again, millions of Americans. We'll start with some of the snow because in a way, the snow is almost the easier part of the storm, but it will still be a challenge. We're talking about, in some spots here, 10 to even 15 centimeters of snow. And then also, as you get into these darker shade of blue, that's going to be close to 25 centimeters of snow in some locations. So it really will be some very heavy snow as we go through the rest of Sunday and even into early Monday for areas across New England, cities like Boston, for example. Now, New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., all of these cities do have the chance to mix in with a little bit of ice, and that's going to come in the form of sleet or freezing rain. So the challenges with that, if we look at our ice map here, you can see several areas in these dark shades of pink. This is where the accumulations really grow quite quickly of ice, and some of that will be sleet. Some of that will be freezing rain, which is that glaze of ice that builds up on wires and really causes a lot of problems, especially when we talk about power outages. So here you can see across Texas, Louisiana, and into Mississippi, we have those darker shades of pink. We're expecting a lot of ice to unfold. In a few spots, we've already seen ½ inch of freezing rain and more than 5 inches of sleet accumulation, so about 10 centimeters of sleet accumulation. Then as you work your way off towards the east, you can still see we have those impacted areas from cities like Atlanta to Charlotte that will get some pretty significant ice accumulation. All of this breaks down to the fact that we will have the risk for power outages. The red areas here, that's going to be the greatest power outages. So we could be talking about entire cities that really have 80 to 90% of their customers without power. Some big challenges here for entire regions of the U.S. And the problem with power outages, especially as some wind comes through on the backside for these eastern spots across the Carolinas and northern Georgia, is that there's going to be a lot of cold pushing into many locations here. We are not warming up in the eastern U.S. anytime soon. The numbers staying well below historical values as far as temperatures are concerned. And not only that, there will be spots across the northern U.S., cities that will stay below freezing for days. So when you do have customers without power, they're isolated because there's either ice on the ground or snow that they can't get out and about. This will bring some big time challenges for people staying safe across the U.S. because it is just so cold and so challenging here, unfortunately.
This is also going to go across the Atlantic.
That was amazing. You had us absolutely wrapped here in the studio as Brits, so we don't get weather anything like it. Fantastic job. Well done. Thank you so much. AccuWeather senior meteorologist, the brilliant Melissa Constanza there, who actually was, Hilary was talking to me as that was going on, saying I've got to charge all my devices apparently.
Well, you've got to charge all your devices. And it might be helpful, yes. I would stack up on that.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you so much.
No, it's really very relevant to the UK. This weather pattern, everything goes across with the Gulf Stream to the UK. So when we've had an intense rainstorm here and a lot of rain, it goes across and there's rain in the UK. This is going across to the UK. So will it be as cold? Will there be as much snow? No. But in about 2 to 3 days, it's going to go across the Atlantic.
So you guys will be prepared for that rain in the UK because that's all you get.
No, but it'll be this cold. But those temperatures are going across
One of my favourite things is watching the weather forecast with Mali, and he goes, I don't know why you do this on GB News because it's just always raining. It's just always raining.
No, it's
not always.
I bike to school every day.
Moving on, is Andy Burnham on the brink of becoming the greatest threat to Sir Keir Starmer? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Andy Burnham is doing an excellent job as Mayor of Manchester. We work very closely together.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Thank you for sticking with us. I want to talk to Layla Cunningham about the fact that she's found herself on the front page of another newspaper. This time it's tomorrow's Mirror. Layla, disgraceful hypocrisy is the headline. Farage's anti-crime star campaigned with Tory after we exposed his white powder shame. I've been reading this story. I've read it a few times now and I still don't quite understand what you're guilty of, Layla. Do you understand it? Because if the accusation is that you have been seen with a man who admitted to taking cocaine, that would mean that pretty much every MP in Westminster needs to step down.
Yeah, but it gets worse than that. So it is that I was in a photo with someone who was accused by the Mirror of taking cocaine. They sent someone in with a lapel camera who brought cocaine to his house just to try and stitch him up. He was exonerated by the army, they did a blood test, and he was let back into the Conservative Party, and he denies it. And I happened to be in a photo with him. I mean, that's how... so your viewers in America know this is front page.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, you know what? They're rattled. I'm for the first time, my odds of winning the mayorship are better than Sadiq's, than Khan's in the past 10 years. The bookies say I've got 40%, he's got 28, that's never happened. And the Mirror is, a Labour mouthpiece, so I think I've got them rattled, and I don't think it's going to be the end. I think they're going to find whatever they can.
How are you finding it, though? Like, on a personal level, you're a mum. You've got about 52 children, by all accounts, haven't you? Like, you're a busy woman, and you are in the spotlight now in a way that I think even I hadn't anticipated you were going to find yourself when you announced that you wanted to stand as the mayor for reform.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is scary. Well, it's not scary, but I know that they're going to bring up so many things. But listen, Bev, I've got nothing to hide. And I do think that politicians should be held up to a very high standard. Do all the research you want. Question me on my policy. Question me on myself. But to make up lies and silly stories like that, you wonder why the mainstream media is not respected anymore, because they've stopped reporting the news and they're just trying to sway political opinion. They've basically become propaganda machines. And that's why no one reads them anymore.
Is it more than you expected, though, Layla? Is it more than you expected? Are you the kind of person that just shrugs it off and it doesn't really bother you? Or is it the kind of thing you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you lie there going, how have I got into this situation?
No, I don't lie. I shrug it off. I mean, you have to. I don't really take much notice. What can you do? I think it's just part of the game. I mean, I think you know, I've been called all sorts of things since I've announced. Some horrific. They've come after my mum, but what can you do? I think that sadly that's the game, and you wonder why good people don't want to go into politics, because people barely question them on their policies or their convictions. They just try and sully their name, which is sad.
Yeah. Just briefly, we are running out of time, but I did want to ask you about that. But is Keir Starmer on the ropes now with Andy Burnham? Very popular, very well liked. I think Andy Burnham's a great guy. I think he's a great MP. Slightly outside the establishment. Is he going to be potentially threatening Keir Starmer with taking over the Labour Party?
I mean, Keir Starmer's so dire. You know, he's not leading the party. He's trying to manage it, and he's doing damage control. But, I mean, Labour are fighting over titles and who's going to be leader. It doesn't really make any difference, because the ideology is the same, and that is an ideology of authoritarianism, control, socialism. You know, they don't reward work. They reward idleness. You know, we've got a massive welfare bill, companies leaving, net zero is bankrupting, effectively deindustrialised our country, and illegal migrants are coming in. I think we've had a record number since they've been in power, and they're housing them in hotels. Yeah. Crime is rampant. I mean, it doesn't really matter who leads it. But I did your clip where Sadiq Khan said, if Andy Burnham wants to be an MP, then he shall be an MP. You know, these people genuinely think that power is a birthright. Does he not think he has to get elected first?
Yeah, well, quite, Layla. Mali, let me just bring you in. I know we're running out of time, but the inbox has been accusing you of being an illegal migrant today.
Well, apparently someone on your say thinks I am an illegal immigrant, and they want to know my ancestry and where my name comes from. Well, my name is Malbert Smith IV. It's very posh. My nickname is Mally. My parents have lived here, or my family has been here since the Revolutionary War, and I'm English-Irish. So I don't know how racist you have to be to not see that this alabaster skin is a white guy, but calm down. You know, I say some opinions you might not like, but you don't have to go insane.
As white as the snow, we might be
white
walking
as the
out
snow.
to. We didn't really, Hillary, get to talk about Keir Starmer being on the ropes, but just very quickly, 10 seconds, would Andy Burnham do a better job of running the Labour Party than Starmer?
Well, the question can go the other way too. Could he do a worse job? I don't think so. So I think anything is also better than Keir Starmer. And I think actually Layla was absolutely right. Most importantly, he's just done a ghastly job on every single front. I can't point to a success in any of his policies.
Layla Cunningham, Hillary Fordwich, Mally Smith, Malbert Smith IV, I now know. Champagne socialist. I love you, really. We've got to go. Thank you so much for spending your night with The Late Show Live. We're going out to the snow. Tomorrow night, I'll be sitting in for Ben as well, if we can make it to the studio. See you then.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a pretty grey end to the weekend. There is still going to be some rain around, but it is turning patchy as we head towards the evening and temperatures just staying around average as well. We still have some yellow weather warnings across Northern Ireland and the eastern parts of Scotland, but they are easing as we go through this morning. We could even see some drier spells for Northern Ireland and some brightness trying to poke through. But we still have some cloud across the central swathe of northern England. It is turning patchy as we head towards the afternoon. And we do have some hill snow across Scotland as well. Temperatures wise around the mid-single figures, which is normally what we would expect as we head towards the end of January. Now, not everyone will see this cloud. The best of the brightness will be across the very far southwest, so Devon and Cornwall may even see some sunnier spells by the afternoon, but we do have this rain across southern parts of Wales and a lot of cloud for the rest of England. Like I said, brighter spells for Northern Ireland, and then we still have some showers continuing across Scotland as well. A lot of these showers are turning towards hill snow through the afternoon, and that will continue through much of the evening. Now, that cloud is going to stick around for us for much of the evening and through the overnight period, so temperatures aren't really going to fall away too much, and it is turning a little bit drier as well. May still get some patchy light rain and drizzle across the hills, but where we do have the clearer skies across the very far southwest, could see those temperatures fall away and maybe even get a bit of a frost in a few localised spots. But otherwise, most places staying frost-free around those lower single figures. Now, as we head through into the new week, we do introduce this band of rain moving in towards the west, which will reach the West Country and eventually reach Northern Ireland by midday. But elsewhere, it's going to be a mostly dry day. Still got that cloud, and we still have a few showers up towards the north. But under that cloud, temperatures really not falling away too much, around the mid-single figures.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And you know,